Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and here on my channel I make crystal videos, spiritual videos, small business videos, fun vlogs, and more. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe because I put out new videos just about every single week. Today we're going to be talking about a whole mess of crystal mislabeling that I see all the time. I was going to include these crystals in a future video I'm making about the most commonly mislabeled crystals that I see, but in this instance, I think this set of crystals needed its own video to explain the difference between all of them because I see them mixed up so much. Now, not all of the crystals that I'm talking about today get confused for each other, but there is a lot of mislabeling and overlap here because they all look kind of similar, so I feel like this deserved its own dedicated video. Hopefully this video will be helpful in providing some clarity and reducing the amount of mislabeling and misinformation on the market. So the crystals we're going to be talking about today are orange calcite, sunstone, peach moonstone, peach selenite, goldstone, and sandstone. First up, I want to talk about the most commonly mislabeled one that I see out of all of these, and that is this material right here. Here's the only example of this material that I have in my shop because I don't normally carry it. This orange material right here is very, very commonly called sunstone on the market. I often see it in towers, but this material is actually orange calcite. This may be surprising to hear because it doesn't look like standard orange calcite. I think this is what we all think of when we think of orange calcite. The vibrant, juicy, delicious looking orange calcite that looks just like an orange. But calcite is just one of those minerals that can look many, many different ways. And it can come in many different colors and shades. So both of these orange materials, these are both orange calcite. This material is not sunstone. Another good example to show the difference in how calcite can look is the difference in these two types of blue calcite. So here is Caribbean calcite. We all know it and love it. This is obviously a type of blue calcite. And here is also blue calcite, which is a more standard variety. You can see the texture on this one is very different looking than this one, but they are both calcite. Both of these calcites have a patchy kind of texture and they are very opaque, whereas these types of calcite look more glassy and they are definitely a little more transparent. If you hold them up to the sun, they will glow a lot more so than the other two would. So if that material isn't sunstone, then what does sunstone actually look like? This is the most common type of sunstone that we will usually see. Very standard grade sunstone, kind of a light peachy color with vibrant orange patches. Now I can see how people would think the other material is sunstone because sunstone does have these little patches that look kind of similar, but you will rarely see sunstone be fully orange like that. And even when you do see sunstone be fully orange, there is one key difference between that orange calcite and orange sunstone, and that is sunstone almost always has some sort of sparkles to it. Especially if the sunstone you are looking at is fully orange, that means it is a pretty high grade sunstone and it will be full of sparkles. You can't miss it. Even this lower standard grade sunstone is going to have some sparkle in those orange patches. The orange calcite material is not going to have the similar sparkle. Sunstone sparkles can range from little specks to kind of a stripy appearance to even a rainbow lattice, which is very rare and pretty expensive for sunstone. Aside from that difference, high grade fully orange sunstone is going to be much more expensive than the orange calcite material would be. You won't really find high-grade sunstone in many shapes. I really only see it in cabochons, sometimes small towers or little carvings, but definitely not big towers like you will see orange calcite. Peach moonstone is another crystal that very often gets confused with sunstone. And this is a pretty understandable confusion because sometimes these two are even found together. This is because they are both feldspar minerals. They are in the feldspar group, so they can actually be formed together. I do have a video coming out soon about feldspars and all of the crystals that fall in that group. I know I've been saying that for like a year now, but it is definitely one of my next couple videos. I'm finishing it up now. So if you want to learn more about sunstone and moonstone and how they are formed, I will include the video linked once it is complete. While sometimes the line between sunstone and peach moonstone can be blurred and they can be found together, most of the time they can be categorized as one or the other. The distinguishing factor between sunstone and peach moonstone is going to be the color. Peach moonstone is significantly more grayish than Sunstone, which is more on the orange side. Peach Moonstone usually has a shimmer to it or a flash, as opposed to the little sparkly specks that Sunstone has. Peach Moonstone flash is also often kind of silver, whereas Sunstone is very orange or rainbow. Sometimes Peach Moonstone doesn't even have any shimmer at all. Sometimes it can look very peachy colored and very bland. It doesn't really have a lot going on. So there is a range of quality in Peach Moonstone, from more of a regular basic quality to a higher grade shimmery Peach Moonstone. So here is a regular Sunstone that we just looked at, and here's an example of a Peach Moonstone. This is actually Peach Moonstone with a little bit of Sunstone in it. It has a bit of those orange rainbow flecks in it, but it also has that silver shimmer. So this is a good example of a combination of the two. When Peach Moonstone is mixed with Sunstone, it will definitely be more orange than just plain Peach Moonstone would be. But plain Sunstone definitely stands out from Peach Moonstone because it has that patchy cream and orange color. There is also a crystal called Belomerite, which is said to be a Sunstone and Moonstone mix, but the big distinguishing factor with Belomerite is that it has a blue flash like a rainbow moonstone would have. This is also a variety of feldspar. It can get kind of confusing to try and explain the differences between all of these different moonstones and sunstones, so if you want to learn more about that, definitely check out the feldspar video when it is finished. But back to orange calcite, there is another crystal that is often mislabeled as orange calcite, and that is peach selenite. It can be difficult to tell the difference between orange calcite and peach selenite because it can be very subtle, and I can see how people can get them mixed up if you don't know what you're looking for. When used properly, the scratch test is a good way to tell the difference between calcite and selenite. They are both very, very soft minerals. Selenite is only a 2 and calcite is a 3. But you can use your fingernail to test if a material is calcite or selenite, because a fingernail is about a 2.5 on the hardness scale. Therefore, it should be able to scratch selenite, but it won't scratch calcite. But if you aren't able to test the materials in person, a big difference between the two is the color. Here is a piece of raw orange calcite, and here is a piece of peach selenite. They are pretty similar looking, but you can definitely see a subtle difference in the color. When comparing the two, peach selenite has more of a dull color. It's definitely more peachy and even pink toned if you're looking at them side by side, whereas orange calcite is more vibrant and definitely more on the yellow side. Selenite also has a splintery texture, which you can usually see in tumbles and even towers. So even polished pieces of selenite, you should be able to see this texture, where the crystals are all kind of facing in one direction. Whereas with calcite, the texture looks a lot more random and patchy. I don't often see peach selenite made into different shapes and carvings like orange calcite would, but recently I have been seeing some peach selenite towers, hearts, tumbles being mislabeled as orange calcite. So the thing to look out for with this one is definitely going to be the color. I feel like even when comparing these two, they look so similar in color, but there is just that subtle difference where this one looks a little more pink and this one's a little more yellow. Polished selenite just doesn't get that shiny, high gloss polish quite like orange calcite does. I never really see selenite to be that shiny even when it is carved into towers. Goldstone is another orange crystal that I very often see being called by the wrong name. I often see this material being called sandstone or golden sandstone, and sandstone and goldstone could not be more different things. Goldstone, which is the material here, it can come in this copper color or dark blue or dark green, but this is a man-made glass. It is not naturally forming at all. Whereas sandstone is a naturally forming sedimentary rock composed of sand-sized grains. So sandstone is very common on Earth. If you look outside right now, there's probably some sandstone somewhere. Big rock formations such as Arches National Park and all other national parks out west in that area are composed of sandstone. It's not as sparkly and flashy as this man-made goldstone would be. In fact, to most people, it probably looks pretty boring and unsuspecting. But even when I searched up images of a sandstone crystal on Google, it was all goldstone that came up. So this is super commonly mislabeled. Goldstone is really well known and loved by crystal collectors, but just know that it is man-made, it is a glass. There's no goldstone that is naturally formed, and it doesn't have any crystal grains like sandstone would. It doesn't have any grains because it's glass. But there is some sandstone on the market that is genuine sandstone. Here is a picture of a I wouldn't say polished because it's not shiny and it's kind of hard to polish a sandstone, but carved sandstone that I do see on the market. Sandstone is usually seen to have this beige, orangey color. However, by definition, sandstone doesn't have to be orange. It just has to have sand-sized grains. But this is what sandstone will look like if you do see it out in the crystal world. It doesn't really look anything like goldstone. Sandstone is also sometimes known as picture jasper. So that's all I have today for you about these commonly mislabeled orange crystals. I hope this video could provide some clarity or knowledge to you if you are a crystal buyer or seller. Also, feel free to share the video with your crystal friends so that we can educate more people and help to stop the spread of crystal misinformation and mislabeling. As always, I will have all of this information in an article on my website if you want to revisit the information we talked about today or look closer at the pictures or share it with friends. I will have the article linked down below. I always like to have my YouTube videos in article form as well so they can be revisited, or if you just don't want to sit through the video, you can see it in the article. And of course, whenever I talk about mislabeled or fake crystals, I don't want this to lead to any hate or judgment towards crystal shops that do sell these crystals or have something mislabeled. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes, especially if you're a new business, and I'm sure I've mislabeled things in the past before too. Just because someone has a crystal mislabeled doesn't mean their shop isn't reputable or that you shouldn't buy from them, unless of course it's a huge recurring issue and they constantly mislabel. But one or the two things mislabeled, I wouldn't say is a reason not to buy from a shop that you like, especially since a lot of this misinformation does come from suppliers and wholesalers themselves. And it sucks that sometimes sources that you think are reputable can be the ones spreading misinformation. So it's important not to judge people just because they have something mislabeled. And if you do decide to reach out to a shop or someone who has something mislabeled, of course, be sure to be nice and give them a chance to fix their errors. Anyway, that is all. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below which crystals you would like to see me talk about in my next crystal chat video. And check out my crystal shop, cosmicgeology.com. You can use code YouTube for a discount on any order at any time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.